Let's welcome Jill and our panelists to this evening of wonderful information and to the Athenaeum.
Awesome. Well, I am so happy to be here, and I am so happy that we're shedding a light on this because I've been doing this menopause thing for almost a decade. So it's great to see so many faces out here that share that. So welcome. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. I think we're in for a lively discussion this evening. But before we do that, can anyone open a window around here or what? This is true. Sleep disturbance, we've got weight gain, mood swings, lack of sex drive, hot flashes, body aches, brain fog. Sound familiar to anyone out here? These are all symptoms of perimenopause, menopause, and in some cases, postmenopause. Tonight, we're going to cover the physical, emotional, and nutritional impact of this important phase in all our lives. We're going to hear from Dr. Jennifer Wetherald, behavioral health specialist Katherine Harris, and nutritionist Kelly Largay tonight. And then we'll have time for discussion after and some questions. You all have little cards on your chairs. If you think of something while we're getting rolling, write it down. At the end, we'll be able to prompt you with those questions and ask it. We want to kind of keep things on a timely basis here, so we'll have room for discussion at the end. So let's get started. It is estimated that there's 1.3 million folks around the world going through menopause right now. So you're not alone, all of us out here. And it can vary in start time. It looks like any time between 45 and 54, but the most common age, the average age, is 51. 70 to 80% of women, this is according to Johns Hopkins, experience hot flashes. 81% may experience fatigue, and just being tired all the time, lethargic. 79% may experience sleep disturbances. What are some of the symptoms that you are all feeling? Does these sound familiar? Is anything unusual that I didn't cover? Yes?
I might have an unusual one, and please forgive my forwardness, but I'm not able to have orgasms.
Well, we're going to cover some of that sex stuff too, I think. Yeah. We're going to get that. Yeah. I mean, you're not alone. That's something that comes with it. Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you got that out of the way right now. So, everyone else who was sitting there listening about it, they've now got that covered. You can leave that off the card, so I don't have to announce that one over and over again. I think we know. Anybody else have anything else? Yes?
I have kind of a weird one, I think.
Yeah.
My ears itch.
Itchingness is something that I have heard from other people, too. We'll let Dr. Wetherald put that in her little notebook, too, as well. Anyone else have anything else interesting that they can think of for symptoms? And we're talking about during menopause, and also post. Yes?
Decreased anxiety or any effects?
Yes. Yep. I can relate to that. Absolutely. Yes? Heart palpitation. Also, I can relate to that, too. I think I'm just the billboard. I should be on a poster, just with arrows pointing to me on that. Yes, you in the back. What do you have? Yes, thinning hair, skin changes, things like that too. Yep. All those things are things that I think come up with this as well. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to introduce Dr. Wetherald here. She's going to help us understand what's happening to our bodies and the physical aspect of this. So Dr. Jennifer Wetherald, DO, obstetrician, gynecologist at NVRH, your local community hospital. Originally from Austin, Texas, she completed her undergrad at Baylor University and went on to complete a master's in biomedical sciences, as well as her doctorate of osteopathy at A.T. Still University. Since then, she completed her residency training in obstetrics and gynecology at Henry Ford Wyandotte Hospital, just outside of Detroit, Michigan. As an OBGYN and evidence-based physician, Jennifer has an inherent and deep professional interest in this area of medicine. She is also a member of the Menopause Society, formerly the North American Menopause Society, and takes pride in supporting women from all backgrounds to navigate every stage of life, together with great healthcare support. Dr. Wetherald recently moved here to East Burke from North Carolina with her husband and her 3 children. She is looking forward to setting up roots here in the Northeast Kingdom. Let's welcome her. Do you want to come up here or stay there? Yeah, up to you.
I'm a stander and a fidgeter, so we're going to come up here. So thank you guys very much for having me out here today. This is an incredible opportunity. I can tell you that part of the reason that I was so impressed with this area when we were looking is, in fact, the culture of the women is so inspiring. Like, you have a hard time meeting a woman out here that's not just so full of stories and all kinds of, ambitions and beautiful families and lots of energy out here. So that was one of the main draws to this area. So thank you for having us, and thank you for having me at your panel. So I was tasked with talking about the physical portion of menopause. I'm going to be honest, this is very hard for me to divorce from the other changes that naturally happen during this age, as well as the hormonal changes, because honestly, all of those things are going to go kind of hand in hand. Now, all of you pointed out very good symptoms that are extremely common and shared. And I am so glad that you brought up the orgasm question, because this is something we have to talk about as women. We are told you are not allowed to talk about sex. It's something's taboo. We don't talk about it. And, I have women that come into the office all the time. They're like, I've got this thing going on and it's down there. Vagina, sex, orgasm, all those words are not bad words. Those are not bad words. And let's be honest, as you're coming into menopause, you're less likely to get pregnant, especially when you're in menopause. You're not going to get pregnant. And absolutely, we should be enjoying sex and having fun with that. You are perfectly entitled to that. So there are definitely a lot of things that we can do for that kind of thing. And there's a lot of aspects of that to talk about. My biggest message tonight, above all else, speaking as a woman, going through the changes myself, is no matter what TikTok, Facebook, media, the news reports, whomever, whatever it is, whomever you're talking to, says, you are not broken. You're not crazy. You're not silly for feeling this way. You're not alone. She mentioned 1.8 million women. 50% of us as women are involved we're in this stage of our life, and we will spend 50% of our life there. So this is not a bad place to be. You're not ugly. You're not at the end of your potential. In fact, you're just blooming into it. So this is a huge change of life that needs to be embraced, and we should get away from this concept that you're breaking down somehow, because you're not. You're just changing. It's a season like puberty. This is what happens. So don't feel like I hope you haven't come here tonight to find out why you're broken, because I hate to tell you, I don't have an answer for that. You're not broken. You might feel some things that feel broken, and we can absolutely work on that. But we're not broken. So menopause is going to look very different for all different types of women, and I'm sure all of you have experienced this, where you're talking with your friends and you're like, dear God, these hot flashes are insane. And your friend's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no hot flashes. And you just want to strangle her, right? You're like, are you kidding me? Or then your friend who you're talking with, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't have any interest in my husband anymore. And she's like, oh my God, I can't stop having sex. And you're just like, what am I doing wrong? So it's going to look very different for all different women. And also keep in mind, when you see these movie stars and media folks on TV who have gorgeous hair and beautiful eyelashes, and their skin looks incredibly perfect, and they're talking to you about menopause and all the changes they're experiencing, they have gone through a lot of Botox and work and extra hair extensions and kind of weird appointments for eyebrow stuff to make that appearance. So it's not, just don't compare yourself. It's not fair. You're entitled to feel completely in your space. With the changes of menopause, we have to keep in mind something very, very important. There are absolutely a lot of symptoms associated with perimenopause and menopause. This time of our life also corresponds and overlaps with time when other things naturally arise. So yes, absolutely, there are mood fluctuations. There are changes in our hair. There is changes in our skin. There's changes in our sex drive, all at this time of life with perimenopause. There are also those things associated with thyroid changes that commonly come up at this time, changes in our insulin resistance, changes in hypertension, our lipid profiles, changes in our sleep patterns can honestly be connected to perimenopause, but also development of things like sleep apnea and sleep problems like insomnia, rheumatological disorders. This is the time that they blossom. So when we're in our 40s and 50s, this is when we start to make those diagnoses of those kind of esoteric rheumatological disorders, blood disorders, various cancers. Rarely is it ever a cancer, but there are certain signs and symptoms that we look for as physicians that are big red flags for us at this time of life that we monitor for. Various infectious diseases. So all these things overlap. So keep in mind that this is part of a much broader spectrum of issues that are going on all at the same time. And it's very important that while we address the perimenopausal changes, we also address the things that are happening to our body just as part of aging. So there is absolutely, with all of that, I get a lot of questions about hormone replacement therapy, and there is absolutely a place for hormone repair therapy. It is well worth a discussion. There's a lot of women who benefit from it, and it's certainly an extremely important aspect of medicine. It's had a bad reputation through the years for various purposes or for various reasons, and some of that very unfairly so, and some of it does have some substance.
I went to 2 different gynecologists and asked for HRT, and they immediately, no. I was afraid to bring it up again.
Yeah, and that's not an uncommon experience. There's a lot of different reasons that can happen. There are comorbidities that people can have that make them not super great candidates. And then there are side effects to medications that we have to be aware of whenever we're prescribing this kind of thing. But also keep in mind that the tides for hormone therapy have changed drastically. In even just the last 5 years. A reanalysis of the Women's Health Initiative, which is where a lot of this information originally came from, has revealed a lot about kind of misnomers and misunderstandings that were involved in the original interpretations. And we've kind of come around and been like, oh, maybe hormone replacement therapy isn't so bad. We also have a lot of non-hormonal options for management of various symptoms. So there's a ton of options out there on how to manage these things and how to make them better. And we're absolutely happy to have that conversation with you. I don't want to take too much time because I know I can talk forever on this. I definitely want to hear lots of questions. I do want to make sure to circle back around on a lot of you hear a lot of people talk about the anxiety, the chest palpitations, the changes in our mood, and it kills me when I hear women berate themselves and feel awful about these changes in their moods and how I can't believe that I'm feeling this way. I'm not a sad person. I can't believe I can't support my family because I'm so upset. You know, I feel these mood swings and they drive me crazy and they drive my husband crazy and it's pulled us apart. None of that is fair to you because remember too, mood disorders and that sort of thing do blossom and come to life in our 40s and 50s, as well as changes with perimenopause and menopause can influence these changes. So you're not crazy. Those changes are real. Luteal phase changes are a big deal, and that is worth conversation. It's not always cured with hormones. Sometimes that's more of an adjuvant. But there's a lot of stuff that we can do for that as well. And please don't feel alone with that sort of thing, because I can guarantee you that the vast majority of women in this room have had some experience with this where we go, oh dear gosh, I'm acting very differently now. That's so odd, and that's a wake-up call. And if that's the wake-up call that brings us into the doctor, please come. I would love to see you. So lastly, I want to mention here, I hear a lot from patients that come to see me that have been told for one reason or another, You don't need a well woman's exam. You had a hysterectomy. You don't need to see the gynecologist anymore. You aren't sexually active, so we don't have to talk about any of that stuff anymore. Please know, if you have a vagina, period, whatever your role is in life, we have a place for you. I can absolutely help you with a lot of the changes, the urinary changes, the vaginal itching and irritation, the sex drive problems. You're still a woman, and we should absolutely be asking those questions as physicians, and you are perfectly entitled as a patient to seek out the answers to those questions. And again, we are absolutely here for you. So if you need an appointment, please call. All right.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions for you too, and
Yes.
and again, write your questions down, because at the end we really want to make sure that this is some good conversation after, and you get your answers to the things that you have too. But my question after, as someone who I am on a hormone replacement right now too, and I have to say it's been a game changer for me. It's not for everybody, and I understand that, but it seemed to me that there was a lot of talk about this long ago. It seems like my mother was talking about it, and then it went away, and then nobody talked about it. What do you think the reasoning is that, I think the data said something like 27% of people were on hormone replacement back in '99, but now it's down to 5%. So what was the cause of that? What was that all about?
So you see this with, is this on? Can you guys hear me? Hold on, I gotta work out science. I have to be smarter than this. Hold on. Turn green. There, can you hear me now? Excellent. So when hormone replacement therapy sort of made its initial debut, there was a giant excitement over it, and the pendulum swung. We see this very commonly with medications and treatments in medicine. There was a lot of excitement around it. We had a big influx in treatment. And then as the years were going on and the Women's Health Initiative was unfolding, we were seeing more and more patients seeking out this hormone replacement therapy, because in theory it was really nice, and a lot of people were experiencing a lot of really good stuff from it. However, we were also then at that time seeing the side effects unfold. So it was a newer therapy, and it took a few years, but after a few years of having a large portion of women on this therapy, you start to see the side effects and the potential complications. And in particular with the Women's Health Initiative, there was a scare for breast cancer and heart attacks and strokes. And all of that is pertinent and reasonable things to be concerned about. The arm of the study that was looking at the combination of estrogen and progesterone was in fact shut down because the risk of breast cancer increased enough in that arm that they did not feel it was good to continue pursuing the research. So that scare turned the whole thing on its tail, and we saw a lot of women come off of the therapy, as well as a lot of physicians get scared out of ever prescribing it again. Nowadays, the reevaluation of the information has kind of shown that what we initially thought were giant leaps and giant changes and huge side effects is a little more reserved than we initially thought. And particularly the risk with breast cancer, while a very real concern, and we absolutely have to have that discussion as far as like family history, risk factors, and whether or not that's an appropriate fit for someone, the risk for breast cancer is not quite as robust as we once thought. So there are definitely risks associated with these medications, but we are starting to see the swing back where we're finding that healthy balance between treatment and side effects, and where the utility is of those hormones.
Yeah, I think that's great. And obviously, you want to follow up with your primary care physicians on that too, and work closely with your OBGYNs and whatnot too, to make sure that you get the right, dosage and a check back to make sure things are working for you as well. Yes?
I am one of the women, 1998, on HRT who had breast cancer. So it is real.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, when you have breast cancer, you're scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to be clear that when you're talking numbers, it's really easy to be, but it's real too.
Yeah, that's
So
totally valid. Understood.
I really did. It was really hard. I had to go cold turkey on it. It was horrible. And I did have a very difficult menopause. So anyway,
No, I appreciate you sharing that information with us too. Yes. Yep.
There's not a lot of, I haven't really talked to any gynecologists that do administer HRT. Are you one of those people? Are there people in your practice that do work with women? Because most of the answers that I get are, oh, well, you don't really know about that, so yeah, it's not very good to do.
HRT is something that absolutely has a place. In the appropriate patients, we will talk, counsel, go through the appropriate workup, and absolutely, there is a place for HRT. You are 100% right. We're in a room of how many people here, roughly? 60. So baseline risk for breast cancer is 1 in 8. Risk with combination hormone therapy increases that risk. So this is why mammograms and appropriate counseling and knowing what we're walking into when we do these sorts of things is so important, because
And obviously I live.
right, yeah, right, and
Thank goodness.
I mean, what a beautiful example of the women in this area. So it's nice that you're here to share that perspective, because you're 100% right. It's very real.
Before we move on, can your question wait, or do you want to? All right, hit us.
So when you're saying HRT, are you like, is it the same thing as like the patch? Is that the same? Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, so hormone replacement therapy comes in a lot of different flavors. There's patches, there's creams, there's pills, there's vaginal suppositories. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. And all of it's going to carry different risks, and all of it's going to carry different types. So through the years, we found different estrogens have different effects, different progesterones versus progestins. All of these things are going to have different penetrance and influences. And so that becomes a very specific conversation per patient as far as what we do.
So we can talk some more about that stuff, because I think that's a good hot button topic for us. But I want to get into the emotional stuff of it too. I think that it's really important that we talk about that and we reduce the stigma of sort of mental health issues and concerns that we have that come up with menopause, and also just feelings and emotions that we have. So let me introduce Katherine Harris, LICSW. She's a wellness counselor and a behavioral health clinician at NVRH. She does work in the OB/GYN and Midwifery Services Department at NVRH as well. Katherine graduated from UVM with a BS in Human Development and Family Studies and a master's degree in social work. In between her first degree and her master's, she became a certified massage therapist and worked in the healing arts profession and had her own practice for some time. Today, in her work as a social worker, she meets with individuals across their lifespan in different capacities: pregnant and postpartum women, children and teens, young adults, older adults. In her work at NVRH, she works with all of our patients throughout their lives, something she really enjoys about her work. Katherine also has a certification in perinatal mental health, which is a program designed to help mothers, fathers, and families experiencing perinatal mood and anxiety disorders in the perinatal period, before and during after pregnancy. She says what she loves most about her work is bearing witness to people's stories and experiences and supporting them whenever they are in their life with heart-centered and strength-based approach. She lives in St. Johnsbury with her husband, Bo, and 9-year-old daughter, Lauren. So, Katherine, you can sit there if you'd like, or you can come on up here. Stay there. All right, make sure that microphone's working. Tell us about the emotional stuff that comes along with menopause.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? Not sure how to turn it up, actually. Oh, maybe I can use yours. Hello? Oh, that's good. Yeah, so I have been thinking about what I want to talk about, and I don't want, I have so much laid out in front of me. I've recently discovered ChatGPT. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you guys put anything into ChatGPT that you're feeling and say, okay, what do I do about this symptom? I'm not replacing doctors at all, but it's a point to, sorry. Yeah, so I have all this in front of me that I actually got from ChatGPT. But and not all of it is, but actually. But I want to share a story. I was an undergrad at UVM, very poor, could hardly go, I could hardly go to school. And there was a study, a research study in the biology department. They were looking for young women who would, in turn for money, volunteer to have their estrogen stopped, and do kinds of stuff to track it. And so, yeah, I signed up, and I thought it would be interesting, and it was interesting. Let me tell you, I was having hot flashes with my mom, and probably the only, well, me and the other vulnerable women on campus, or young ladies. But anyway, yeah, but I experienced depression, and I was having panic attacks and anxiety. Like, it sent me in this spiral. So this, and I was like, I don't know, 20, like, so it just goes to show how powerful hormones are. And it was a 3-month study, and when they gave me a shot to then, I don't even know what it was, to get my estrogen back, it was great.
Jennifer's having a hard time with this whole thing.
Let me
She's like,
tell
wait a minute, what?
But I'd like to say I'm perfect since then, but I'm not, far from perfect. But I think that there's so much to talk about, right, within this emotional realm. And this, like, when you're talking about women from, like, 42, 44 to 52, there's so much that goes on within your life. Each person is an individual, but some may be taking care of their aging parents, some may be taking care of their kids at the same time, or their grandkids. Some may be having some health challenges, or have their spouse or good friends, pass away, or they could be having, serious financial worries, worried about the future, their 401ks, their retirement. They may be having this, symptoms such that they are worried about if they can continue working, or they they're at the height of their career and then they have to switch because they can't remember things, or they get so panicky they can't do what they used to do. So it's also individual, that there's no, I have this all in front of me. Like, there's tons of things that could help, but I think with the point that I would like to give is, if you're struggling, don't struggle alone. And like Dr. Wetherald said, you're not broken. This is a hard time of life, but it can be a growth opportunity. And, the Chinese character of, I always forget when I tell this, but of like crisis is like, change is like crisis and opportunity. And so, you can use this time of your life to springboard into a new you. And also, don't, reach out for support, your primary care provider, and, behavioral health or counselors. And you could talk to the women in your life. A lot of this isn't talked about. My husband and I, we had infertility challenges for 5 years, and we ended up having to use a sperm donor for my daughter. And, that also is a thing people don't talk about. And so there are all these things in our lives, men too, women. And so, we just need to talk about it with each other, and know we're not alone. And if you're struggling, reach out. And if you get an answer from someone that you don't like, or that makes you feel not good, there are other people. Get a second opinion. Go talk to somebody else. And because people have very different styles, and the medical school sounds like the medical students that are coming out right now have a very different education than the older providers. So that's not bad, but it's just, maybe if you ask about hormone replacement therapy and they're not open to it, maybe try to find someone maybe who's had that newer education or had some updated information. I mean, it's hard, right? But again, like if you have an experience with someone, don't end there. Keep searching and keep checking.
And don't give up. I mean, I
Don't
think
give up.
that's it. If you're speaking with your primary care provider and, it's your body, and so you can be more insistent. I think sometimes we have a tendency not to, but we can, and we don't have to keep this in the shadows. And that's, what we're talking about. We're here with a group of 60 people just in this North Country area who are all going through this, and have all different symptoms and variety. And it's important that we keep communicating about it and take up that stigma away,
Yeah.
What you said was fantastic. I think, you got to find the right provider, mental health, behavioral health for you too, just like your physical provider. And so looking around, shopping around for that, even though I know we have sometimes hard time finding folks up here.
Yeah.
It's important that you find a good match as somebody you feel comfortable with and talk about. I wanted to ask you a quick question too, is why do you think it's important now to talk about this? Like, why do you think people in the past have been hesitant? You know, and why do you think it's so important that we do bring the light to it?
Well, like I think that it's important because all women go through it, and we haven't been really talking about it, and there's probably many different reasons for that. Shame and fear and embarrassment. Yeah. And I mean, there's lots of things, but if we don't bring it up and talk about it with each other and with our providers and whoever else, nutritionists, counselors, acupuncturists, chiropractors, whatever, we're gonna think we're alone.
Yeah, the more the merrier on this one, I think, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Oh, I have a sheet for that. Tips for supporting your partner through menopause.
Chat GPT had something to say about that.
Seriously.
So, yeah.
Actually, this was Copilot AI.
But the men haven't had a clue, and you are all over the map.
Yeah.
You're bouncing off the walls.
Oh, absolutely. Mm.
This room needs to be
Yeah.
filled with men.
Yeah. Well, and men are going through their own changes, and it's hard to be with a menopausal woman, and so their lives are complex too, right? They have these layers of challenges in their life, so yeah, they need support too.
Yeah, but it's nothing like ours. Like,
That's true.
Let's be real about it,
That's true. Yeah, I bet ChatGPT theirs would be like this.
I missed that last one. What'd you say?
It's not that they need support. That's not the issue. They need information. They need to know that they need to know what to expect. We need to know.
Well, they got to be open to that too, and the only way that we can do that is to enhance our communication, right? So we start bringing it to light here. We start opening the conversation here so that we get empowered. So then you can go back to your husband and tell him about stuff like that. And it's not a figment of our imaginations. This is not something that is not true. This is a real thing that happens, and all the things that come with it. So you're right. They do need to learn and understand this as well, for sure. All of our partners do. So.
I'm not crazy. I mean, if you says you're crazy, you said you don't want to seem crazy.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to move now into fitness and nutrition. And Kelly Largay here is a MN Nutrition and MNU certified nutritionist at Ace Fitness. And is that in Lisbon or Littleton? Littleton. Yep. Originally from St. J, Kelly brings both science and heart to the world of women's nutrition coaching with a bachelor's degree in applied exercise science from Springfield College and multiple industry-leading certifications, including MNU Certified Nutritionist, Precision Nutritionist Level 1 and 2, and NCI Certified Hormone Specialist. She combines evidence-based strategies with real-life sustainable tools. As the lead of the nutrition program over at Ace Fitness, Kelly specializes in helping women understand how to fuel their bodies to feel stronger, leaner, and more energized without extreme dieting or restriction. Her approach supports fat loss, muscle building, and hormone health while improving your relationship with food for the long haul. Whether you're frustrated with plateaus, confused by conflicting nutrition advice, or simply ready to feel at home in your body again, Kelly's coaching is designed to help you unlock results that last. Kelly.
Wow.
What?
Pressure is on.
We'd love to have you. Welcome you to the conversation. What have you got to say about this? I mean, I will just say personally, I've gained some weight, a lot of weight. I don't like it. And a lot of it it coincided with, with this menopause-y stuff. And I feel like I'm not really doing much different. I feel like I'm still working out. I feel like I'm still doing the same exercise stuff and still eating the same things. I mean, maybe, a little bit less energetic or whatnot, but things have changed. I can't do what I used to do and expect the same results. What do you think, Kel?
You're not crazy. First of all, speaking of husbands, my husband asked if I wanted him here tonight for court, and I said, do you really want to be in a room of menopausal women? Like, stay away, just stay away. All right, so I'm obviously going to touch on, that was an awesome introduction, thank you so much. I'm from Ace Nutrition. It's a nutrition coaching company that I started roughly 8 years ago. Shortly after Ryan, my husband and I opened Ace Fitness over in Littleton, New Hampshire. And we realized, like, the fitness side of things, it was great. We could help our clients with that, but people were really struggling with nutrition. And I said, okay, I'm gonna go back to school and I'm gonna learn the knowledge and the education so that I can help our clients on the nutrition side of things. And I'm gonna talk specifically today about why, just got really loud. Okay, he's giving me a thumbs up. About why weight loss and even just weight maintenance can become so challenging after the age of 40. And really even like 35. I know I just turned 40, just had my first mammogram. So I'm starting to experience some of like the fun things that we women get to live through. And I mean, is anyone, just to kind of like keep the feel laid back here, is anyone having a harder time now maintaining body weight or even just losing body weight? Okay, yes. I see some familiar faces in the back here. Okay, so you're not alone. And fitness and nutrition obviously plays a huge, huge role in this. It is the underlying foundation of what we need to be working on as we are approaching this age. And as someone who just turned 40 this year, I wish I had started implementing some of the tools that I'm gonna give you guys today, like in my early 20s. And what I wanna do here is, I wanna share some experiences that some of my clients have and some actual things that they've put on their coaching applications when they're applying to work with me on their nutrition. Because I think a lot of you guys are gonna be able to relate to this. And then I wanna get into what's happening hormonally, what's happening in your lifestyle, and some nutrition and fitness tips for you that you can literally start implementing tomorrow if you want to. So just to read off some common experiences, and I have notes here because sometimes when there's a lot of faces looking at me, I go blank, so I've got my notes. So these are real women who are telling me things like what worked before for weight loss is no longer working.
Who said
which
that?
Jill just mentioned. That was not from her, this was a different person. I'm storing fat in my belly and nothing will get rid of it. My body feels foreign to me. I feel tired all the time. Nothing helps me lose weight. My cravings are out of control. I'm trying to stay in shape, but it's getting harder and harder to maintain. Can anyone relate to any of that? I see a lot of heads nodding. Yes, okay, you're in the right place. So just to kind of give you, without getting too sciencey, I want to give you the lowdown on what's happening with us at this age hormonally. And once we reach the age of 40, 45, for some women it's even in their late 30s, your estrogen and progesterone levels start to decline. So your hormone levels are starting to decline, which actually changes how your body uses energy and the calories that you're fueling it with. On top of that, and Dr. Wetherald touched on insulin sensitivity. Your insulin sensitivity decreases. This makes fat loss very, very challenging. In addition to, cortisol becomes harder to regulate, and I think we probably all recognize the word cortisol as something bad, like it's your stress hormone, right? And I feel like there's a lot of fear mongering that goes on around cortisol. It's actually not a bad hormone. We need it. We want it to be elevated in the morning when we wake up. We want it to be high when we're stressed. Like when I have all these faces looking at me and I'm nervous, my cortisol's high right now. But we want it when we're not stressed. We want it to then come back down, right? And that doesn't happen as easily once our hormones start to change. So stress levels remain high. That's gonna trigger cravings and belly fat storage. Sleep can become disrupted due to all of this. Hot flashes, you may experience those in the middle of the night, wake up in a cold sweat, hard to get back to sleep after that, right? So when you're not sleeping, this is gonna have a negative impact on your hunger hormones as well as making you feel less satisfied when you do eat. Now the kicker to all of this, and I am gonna talk about muscle a lot in these next, I'll keep it brief, 5-10 minutes or so. In addition to all of this, you're losing muscle tissue simply because you're getting older. And it pains me to say that, but if you're not actively combating the loss of muscle tissue, it's going away once you hit the age of 30. I mean, that's like a spring chicken, right? It's like depressing. So we need to be focusing on fitness and nutrition because I can promise you, if you can maintain your muscle tissue through this age and through this phase of life, it's gonna be so much easier for you. So on top of that, here's what's going on in your life. You've reached the age of 35, 40, 45, and you're stressed, right? Like maybe you're taking care of aging parents. I know you mentioned that. Maybe simultaneously you're taking care of your kids. Maybe you're about to become an empty nester and send your kids to college. Like that's stressful. You may have a sedentary job. You may have a high stress job. What I'm trying to say is your stress is high. So your hormones are all out of whack. Your stress is high. This kind of leads to the perfect storm of just hormonal havoc, okay? And you're not crazy. This is really happening. So these lifestyle shifts of, becoming more sedentary, potentially because you're working more. I know for myself, I'm sitting at a desk all day long. Even though I work out 5 days a week, I'm sedentary because I sit at my desk all day. I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. So less time for movement, less time for working out, more loss of muscle. Not to mention, once we get to this age, some of us have been dieting a lot. I speak with women who are 40, 50, even in their 60s, who've been dieting for decades. So when you yo-yo diet, your body does become more resistant to weight loss and to fat loss. So you're not crazy, your body's changing. And I know that was a lot of doom and gloom, so let's get into the good stuff. I always say to my clients, we have to flip the script on fat loss and weight loss. Because what we did in the past is no longer gonna work. And I know back when I was in my 20s and I wanted to lose weight, I would eat less, I would do more cardio, boom, reach my goal weight within like 2 weeks. And that's what we resort to, even at this age, right? I mean, I see some head nods, like you think, okay, I'm experiencing this unwanted weight gain, so I need to move more, I need to eat less. At this age, that's gonna backfire. It's actually gonna do more harm than good because that's muscle wasting, which is already happening because you're getting older and because your hormones are changing. So on top of everything, then you start eating less and you start doing more cardio, and that can actually do more harm than good. So muscle maintenance and building muscle needs to be your #1 priority. So let's talk about some nutrition and fitness strategies, and I'm gonna go through these quick, and I wanna make sure to leave time for the Q&A because I think there's gonna be a lot of questions for us. So fueling for the menopause transition, I wanna just give you guys 3 tips on what you can be eating more of. I think there's a lot of restrictive mindsets out there in regards to food. I wanna lose weight, I need to eat less of this, I need to cut carbs, I need to not do this. So we need to eat more whole foods. The reason for this is that as you enter perimenopause, your body becomes a lot more sensitive to how it's fueled. So the stakes become a lot higher with your food choices. Your food quality has to be good. So just to give you a tip for this, and I have some free resources. If you guys drop your email at the table out there as you're leaving, I have some free resources I can send you on this. Every time you eat, we want to prioritize complex carbs. So those are your non-sugary carbs, healthy fats, and plenty of protein. We do want to limit those ultra-processed foods that have a lot of sugar because that's just going to make insulin sensitivity worse. We want your body to be very sensitive to insulin. If we're eating too much sugar, it will be resistant, which just means that your muscles aren't uptaking insulin in the way that it should, and that makes fat loss harder. So really quickly, protein: chicken, tuna, salmon, beef, egg whites, eggs, steak. Those are your proteins. And again, drop your email because I have what I call menopause macros, and I can email you guys a list of really healthy options for carbs, fat, and protein. Healthy fats, avocado, eggs, walnuts, olive oil, almond butter, and then carbs. Your complex carbs are gonna be things like sweet potatoes, brown rice, fruits and veggies, and quinoa. Okay, we need to eat more protein. You probably think you're eating enough protein. I can tell you, you're probably not doing it consistently enough. We need to eat enough protein every day because your body can't store protein in the way that it can store carbs and fats. So we need to be hitting our targets daily. Now, how much protein should you be eating? You want to aim for roughly 0.7 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. I highly recommend track your food for a few days just to see where you're at with this. You don't have to do it forever, but it will really open your eyes to how much protein you're actually consuming. And I bet 90% of you need more. And I know this just because the women that I'm working with, they are almost always under eating protein. It's one of the first things we start working on. And then we need to eat more fiber. So a lot of women will eliminate carbs when they start to experience this unwanted weight gain. And in doing so, you're also eliminating fiber, which becomes a problem because fiber is really important for blood sugar management, lowering cholesterol, feeling full, regular digestion, and also for optimal gut health, which another fun thing we haven't touched on yet, but your gut health can take a hit with your changing hormones. How much fiber do you need? Roughly 15 grams for every 1,000 calories you eat. So for easy math, if you track your food and you determine that you're eating 2,000 calories, you want to be getting about 30 grams of fiber. Last but not least, I hope I'm not going over my time limit here. I could talk about this all night. You guys see how excited I get when I talk about it.
Fiber, protein. Oh, sorry.
I get excited about food. What can I say? I am a terrible cook. That's the funny thing.
That's okay.
So exercising for the menopause transition. I want to start by saying that any type of movement is beneficial. If you're doing nothing now, then just going for a walk every day will make a huge difference. But I have to touch on strength training because this is going to play a key role in supporting metabolic health and also preserving not only muscle tissue, but bone mass. You guys have heard osteoporosis. You probably know women who have broken bones after they go through menopause. It's because your bones literally get brittle because your hormones are changing. And I don't say this to scare you. I say this to bring awareness to the fact that we need to be serious about exercising so that we are maintaining muscle tissue and maintaining bone density. And it's absolutely reversible, which is the cool thing. So if you're someone here who maybe your doctor told you have osteoporosis, you can start strength training and you can start eating right if you're not already, and it is reversible. So strength training, other benefits: supports hormonal health, supports blood sugar control, it boosts your mood, it increases your energy, prevents disease, improves cognitive health, which is, that's a good one.
Reduces your hot flashes.
Everyone's like, get me to the gym. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on it, that it enhances balance, posture, and function. So it is, I always say, it's your longevity organ. If you want to age well and independently and be able to use the toilet on your own when you're 90, you got to start training for it now. Like, get in the gym now. And you don't have to live in the gym. I mean, 2 to 4 strength training sessions a week. If you're new to it, 2 sessions a week is all you need. You will see significant progress and you will notice a difference. So I was going to touch on sleep, but I think I'm going over my...
How are we doing on time? I can't.
6:55.
6:55, 7. So, well, you maybe just touch upon sleep quickly.
I'll make it quick because sleep is boring.
Not really. Are you kidding? I live for sleep.
It's important, but it's boring, right? So we need to, again, talking about muscles, we need to sleep like our muscles depend on it because they really do. So the importance of sleep, I mean, it's obviously important for muscle growth and recovery. It's important for hormone regulation, blood sugar control, and it also helps to regulate cravings and hunger. Adults are terrible at sleeping. Like, we do not sleep, right? Maybe we fall asleep easily and then we wake up and we're up like 2 a.m. It's my jam. It's when I think of really good ideas for my clients and thinking of all the things at 2 a.m. So we want to aim for 7 to 8 hours per night. I'm seeing some scared looks. Is anyone getting that amount? Like, trying to anyway? Okay, we have a few. That's good. If you're not, and if you truly can't get more than 7 to 8 hours, just try to optimize the sleep that you are getting. Like, I have a client who, she's a mom of 6, works full-time job. She sleeps 5 hours a night. She's like, I don't have enough hours in the day. I can't sleep more. And we've really worked on optimizing the quality of sleep that she is getting. She's eating more carbs at night, which can help to regulate blood sugar overnight. So that's been helpful, as well as just developing a good bedtime routine. Like, don't be scrolling Facebook right before bed or, checking your email. Like, we want to send signals to our body that it's sleepy time, time to go to bed. It really is that important. So just to wrap it up, let's talk about what we can control really briefly, because this time of life can make you feel like you have control over nothing. I mean, you can control your food quality. Make sure you're eating enough protein, make sure you're eating enough fiber, make sure that you're not eating too many of the ultra-processed foods, add strength training. And I know I'm gonna get some questions on that because I know it's scary. If you've never lifted a weight before, it's scary to step into a gym. Prioritize sleep and then stay consistent with all of those things long-term. Don't do these things for like 2 weeks and then just be like, this isn't working. You need to do it long-term. And again, if you guys want to drop your emails as you leave, I will send you menopause macros. And then I also have some recipe ideas that are high in fiber, high in protein as well, that I'll email to you.
Awesome. Thank you,
How'd I do?
Kelly. That was great. I mean, I think we learned a lot here. I think the big takeaways, of course, and we're going to get to questions and stuff like that too, where, connect with your primary care provider, connect with a good OBGYN, connect with behavioral health. If you're feeling any emotions or you want someone to talk to, find the right person, a good match, and start thinking about your body as the temple that it is and treat it as such. Start thinking about what you're putting in for foods and things like that too. So this has been really informative for me too, and I appreciate it. One thing I will add too is check if you work for a company like I work for NVRH and you have an EAP system or something, there's usually something on there for a sleep coach, which I did because I was having trouble sleeping, and a couple sessions with the sleep coach really made a big difference too. So there are some simple techniques that you can do. Scrolling was mentioned as well too, but I think having a good night's sleep is a big piece that really empowers us too. It starts the day off right too. So let's get to some questions. Oh yeah, did you have a quick question before we start our Q&A?
I know I'm the old lady in the room here.
You're not.
Oh, yeah, I'm old. Oh, hi, Janice. Maybe I'm not, okay? Maybe we're together. Yeah, I'm 78, so I have been through it. But I just want to reply now to you and to people here. I started strength training when I was 70 years old, my birthday. And I did it with a personal trainer who also drilled nutrition into me and how to sleep and so on. So that has made a huge difference in my well-being, because 5 years later I was diagnosed with cancer and another cancer, different cancer, and I have other issues. And I've had my doctor say to me, I don't know where you'd be if you hadn't done that strength training. You had these muscles ready. And so I'm just telling people, you can do this any time of your life. And it's important.
Thank you for sharing that. That's lovely. I love it. Yeah, great. Yes? Yes?
So I probably should get some kind of a commission, but for the book, The New Menopause by, Dr. Mary Lou Haver. So somebody told me about that book last year, and I've bought it for about 5 of my friends. And it's exactly what you were talking about. And it gives the whole history of hormone replacement therapy and how it got sidelined from a study that got published before, that got in the news before it was actually published. And it just took off from there. But it's really great, and there's like 4 pages of symptoms. And so to know, oh, that's what that was. So anyway, so it's a really great book, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you for that.
The new Menopause is a fantastic book, as is the Menopause Manifesto by Dr. Jen Detter. They are both incredible physicians who wrote those books, and both books are an incredible wealth of knowledge. Gosh. Do that second one again. Menopause Manifesto. All right. They both are really strong, based on Instagram too, and put out a lot of information.
All right, did you have a chance to write down your questions while we were having our session? Awesome. Then we can do this a couple different ways. We have small groups, so we can just, stand up with our question if that's easier, or if you feel like you need a microphone, just let us know and we'll run one over, okay? So let's start. Who's got some questions? Yes.
Will HRT help me? I want to specify. Oh. Hello. Boy, as soon as you get one of these in front of you, it's like, oh God. All right. It's not that I have a lack of sexual desire. It's not, whether that's there or not, it doesn't matter. I cannot have orgasms. Like, trust me. Okay. So will HRT help with that, or is there something else?
So that's worth a very in-depth discussion, but gearing towards what you're saying, you just made a very important distinction. There are women who have a lack of sex drive, and then there are women who have difficulties climaxing. And absolutely, as we age, the sensitivity of the nerves all within our vagina change drastically. And this is going to happen differently for different women. The approach to both of those is going to be slightly different. Is hormone replacement therapy going to make it easier to climax? Maybe. But also important to address the changes in the vascularity to the vagina, as well as the changes in the nerves. So there is a really interesting study out there, and a few that have backed this up, that while women see a decrease in their ability to achieve orgasm, one particular sensation that we don't lose in the vagina as readily is vibratory sensation. So there is a lot of really interesting evidence out there that shows that when we practice vibratory stimulation to the clitoris on a regular basis, even if we're not mounting an orgasm, we can bring back the ability to have pleasurable sex with vibratory stimulation, and that can help with that particular issue. We also see when we increase blood supply to the clitoral area, so everyone thinks this is silly, but we've all heard, I'm sure most of us have heard of the rose. So the rose and such other items, that suction on the clitoris actually increases blood supply to the clitoris. Obviously, it's something you do very carefully. You don't want to cause a bruise on your clitoris. But there are ways to increase through various practices the blood flow and the stimulation to the clitoris in particular to make it easier to climax during sex. So.
Okay, and then just one other question for you. Is there anything else besides what you've already told us that will help with getting rid of visceral fat and flabby arms?
Strength training. It really will be helpful. And one thing I don't think I mentioned is when you lose muscle mass, the reason that fat mass becomes more prevalent is because losing muscle tissue causes you to burn less calories every day. So when I hear from women who are saying, I'm doing everything the same, but it's not working anymore, it's most of the time because they're losing muscle tissue and therefore just burning less calories. So if they're not changing their nutrition, then that will cause you to maintain more body fat. So strength training, and then even just general movement, like gentle walking outside of the days that you're not strength training will be helpful for that.
Exercise also helps with sexual desire and sexual dysfunction.
I think I should have brought my husband tonight.
And there are so many things that could help with, counselor who specializes in, you know, in helping a couple, I mean, all kinds of things, right? From physical intimacy to tools, and there's great websites, like instructional websites, and the list goes on, right? Again, reach out for help, you know.
Chat GPT.
Chat GPT.
It also works really good as like a temporary therapist. I'm not kidding. You can like ask them and just tell them how you're feeling. It just says all the right words.
What else we got? Must be some more questions over here. Yes.
I have a lot of joint pain. I feel old. And I'm just turning 50 this year. So getting up and down off the floor, end of the day, it hurts. Going to bed at night, it hurts. I started taking supplements to help. I don't know, I mean, it is some, but not as much as I would like it to. So I don't like it. Just gonna be honest, I don't like it. I work with kids, so I'm up and down on the floor, and it's hard to get up now. It's really hard.
If I can just say two things, quick things. Hydration can be really helpful with that. A lot of women that I speak with aren't hydrating enough. So just to know where you need to be with hydration, take your body weight, divide it by 2, drink that plus 15 in ounces daily. Everyone's getting their water out now. And then also, you know, I obviously don't know what your diet looks like, but improving food quality can help immensely, because sugar, I hate to demonize sugar. I'm not someone who's going to tell you can't eat sugar, but when we eat too much of it, it can cause inflammation.
Right.
Oh, take your body weight, divide it by 2. Yeah. And then add 15 to that. Plus 15, yep.
And that's the ounces?
That's in ounces, yep.
There is evidence also to show that in certain situations in the appropriate patients, hormone replacement therapy can absolutely help with joint pain. Again, that's a big one because there's a lot of other things that can cause joint pain, and she's 100% right that nutrition, diet, exercise is huge. All of those will contribute to that as well. But that is a symptom that we see in perimenopause, and there is a place for hormones in that in certain situations.
And I just wanted to say too that I had Lyme disease, and I had so much pain, and like I couldn't open a jar that was already opened, and I couldn't get myself off the floor, and I'm okay now, but it took a long time to figure it out what it was. And so I think just trying to rule out those medical things are really important. So yeah.
Who else? Yes, you back there.
I have a question. Does tendinosis come with perimenopause?
Did you got it? Question? Could you repeat the question again?
You're talking about tendinosis?
Tendinosis come with perimenopause and aging?
So yes, you see a restructuring of the ligaments, the tendons, all of the, as you were referring to, the muscle mass changes, that sort of thing, all with the hormonal fluctuations. Again, you get a little bit into the weeds with this because there is a lot of co-diagnoses that we need to be mindful of. But in the same way that she's mentioning pain, that's where a lot of the suspicion for why there's aches and pains associated with perimenopause happens, is that change in the tendons and ligaments and the influence that has on your proprioception.
And is that fixable, or are you stuck with it?
Oh, no, absolutely. So interestingly enough, with the perimenopausal symptoms, so people talk a lot about brain fog, body aches, hair loss, changes in sex drive. A lot of these things improve when we're patient. So even if you never do hormone therapy and you just wait it out, you probably won't go all the way back to baseline 100% better, but a lot of women will find that once we get through that transition, things kind of improve. So the brain fog gets better, the body aches get better, all of this kind of gets a little bit better. So there again, that emphasizes the point, you're not broken, and there absolutely are things we can do for this sort of thing. in a lot of ways, if we just take care of ourselves, we can get through it.
And how do you treat the tendinosis? Because I was kept in braces for over 1.5 years. So, and I've been reading a lot about that's not good.
Well, so it depends on why we're having the tendinosis. So yes, it can be related to perimenopause, but if we're looking more at some rheumatological issue or something ortho, that's going to be a very different story. And the management for that's going to be very, very different. And hormones are probably not going to help as much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Is the sleep coach the same thing as a sleep doctor? Because I was going to a sleep doctor. I got diagnosed with sleep apnea, and the CPAP was working wonders. And now I've got sleep apnea, and they're like, well, why aren't you using this? I've got insomnia, and it's like, why aren't you using the CPAP machine? It's like, well, CPAP machine doesn't do you any good if you don't fall asleep. So I was sort of get frustrated with the sleep doctor, and I was just wondering, is the sleep coach something different than that?
Well, I can only speak to myself and the sleep coach that I had, which was not directly related to sleep apnea, so I can't really speak to that specifically, but I think they're probably different things. I had to go to the sleep doctor first to have them tell me that I was borderline sleep apnea, that I didn't qualify for a CPAP. And then I was also in menopause and having a hard time sleeping, waking up. I went to the sleep coach to try to coach me through that, so I learned techniques, what happens when I do wake up in the middle of the night. So very different things, I think, for me specifically, but I'm sure you folks can speak to that as well.
Sleep disturbances are huge in perimenopause, as well as menopause. A lot of it can be related back to diet and exercise, lifestyle changes, changes in stress. As you know, we kind of mentioned, we're all carrying different titles at this time in our lives, and that's going to change how we are affected by life, and that's definitely going to affect our sleep patterns. There are a lot of different reasons that we can have sleep disturbances at this point in our lives. Certainly sleep apnea is a big one, but if you're still continuing to have breakthrough issues with sleep, then that tells us that the job is not yet done. There is more to explore there, and that's worth bringing back to your doctor and being like, hey, still doing the sleep apnea stuff, but still not sleeping. There's more to be done there.
Because I think that exercise and the fixing healthier meals would be easier if you were well rested to have the energy to
100%, 100%. So this is an interesting point, and you read this anytime you read about menopause. What comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So you're tired. It's almost like a tornado. Like you're tired, you're exhausted, you get home, you don't want to work out, you don't work out, you get weak, you don't eat well, you don't sleep well, you get stressed out, and you just keep spinning down. And it comes upon us to pump the brakes and break that cycle, because it's very easy to just slide down. But we've got to change parts of it to make it turn upward.
If I could just drop a couple of tips. I don't consider myself a sleep coach, but I have studied it a little bit, and I do work with my clients on it, because if you're not sleeping, you're not going to lose weight. So it is something that I have to know a little bit about. With my clients, it really helps to develop a bedtime routine. Like, don't be on your phone, watching TV, don't do anything that's going to make you feel stressed before bed. And I had to have some tough love with myself. I would be brushing my teeth before bed, scrolling on Facebook, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And I stopped, and it did help. So sometimes little things like that. Also avoiding, and I don't know anything about you, but if you drink caffeine, avoiding it after 2 p.m., avoiding alcohol, keeping your bedroom nice and cool, making sure it's dark. Sometimes, just to touch on the nutrition side of things, having some complex carbs right before bed can be helpful, because it helps to stabilize blood sugar overnight. So I have a lot of clients who will do like avocado toast or like yogurt with berries just as a snack before bed, and that can be helpful.
One of the things that that worked for me was taking a hot bath as part of my routine before I go to bed. And there's a fine line where it's too late, and then but it really has helped. And I think it's almost like that routine that you do with little kiddos. and that really has helped. And also, I have a little chamois cloth that I keep next to my bedside, and a little bit of witch hazel, so that if I wake up with night sweats, I quickly, can. Yes, Betty Ann, what have you got?
I've started to listen to sleep meditation apps. Speak up. But I'm kind of addicted to it. Be careful. I can't go to sleep if I'm not listening. Yes, I'm up.
There is a really cool thing I got on Amazon. I've never been a person that sleeps with a mask, but they make sleep masks with little headphones in them. So I listen to my app with the funky noises, the green ones or whatever. So it covers your eyes, it goes over your ears, and so you're it's dark plus, but you have that playing in your ears. Cool.
How many people in this room find themselves at night afraid to go to sleep because as soon as you go to sleep, when you wake up, the next day has to start?
Or you have to lay there for 4 hours and wait for it to start.
Sure. So,
You can't go back to sleep.
right, there's troubles with sleep. So the anxiety surrounding it, I'm circling this back around to anxiety. A lot of us suffer with this fear, I don't know if it's fear per se, but this anxiety about falling asleep, because that's your one time during the day when you don't have to be answering emails, your kids are in bed, and you have just a second to yourself. And so it's nice to hide in Facebook and scroll through and doom scroll, because that's your moment to hide. So if you can take that moment and move it earlier into the day, say over lunch, if you allow yourself some time to have that moment to yourself earlier, you might find it a little bit easier to do these exercises and find your sleep later. Facts. And we can do stuff about that too.
Front load your water early in the day.
Yeah.
Drink your water, get it in early. Cut it off at 5 p.m. It will help them. Do you really have to pee though, or have you gotten yourself into the habit of feeling like you have to pee? Because I do that. I'm like, okay, it's 2 a.m., I'm awake. I know I'm gonna have to pee if I fall back asleep, so I'm just gonna get up and pee.
Okay, here.
So ask yourself that, do I really have to?
Okay. How are we doing on time?
We're doing, what time is it? Okay. We can go another 5 or 10 minutes. What I would like to suggest, I know some of you are a little bit of a mic shy and would prefer not to use the mic, which is fine, but if you do so, please talk up so everybody can hear, because I'm interested in hearing what everybody has to say.
Okay. Yvette's sister, what would you like to say?
I don't have a million questions, but I also, in the realm of sleeping, at some point in the last couple of years, someone taught me box breathing. And if you just Google it, it'll give you lots of examples. And I don't know, it's magical. I don't know what exactly it does to your body, but it must have something to do with stress and anxiety. And it really, there are many times that I still can't sleep, but there's also times when I wake up and I go, oh, druthers, and then I start my box breathing, and I don't know anything again until my alarm goes off.
Are you saying box, Brooks?
Box, B-O-X. Yeah. And there's lots of versions online of it, but it does something to your nervous system. Like it switches you from one
Fight or
state
flight
to
to
the
rest
other.
to digest. Feel the medical.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Catherine, do you know anything more about that box technique?
I've heard of it. There's so many different breathing exercises out there. I like the 4-7-8 breath, but there's so many. So I think it's finding one that you like, and you can do it in the car, you can do it while you're taking a shower. You know, a lot of folks find breathing being really helpful for panic attacks. It really helps. It's maybe one of the, I don't know, other than medication, maybe one of the more of the surefire bet of things of you can do to really lower that those panic symptoms. and because of its effect on the nervous system. It's kind of a meditation because you're focusing on your breath, so your mind isn't focusing on whatever you were worried about or whatever, but it's also physically changing your body and moving yourself, your brain over to that rest and digest mode from that cortisol or that, yeah.
What else we got? Yes.
I listened to a podcast and I didn't read the whole book of the new menopause, but what terrified me was she was suggesting that most women should actually have some estrogen and that there's a window in which you need to have it, and if you don't have it in that window, it doesn't even really matter. So then I got totally freaked out, like, how do you know when the window is? And maybe that, and again, it was a podcast, so it might be overly simplified, but I'm just wondering what you think about that.
The suggestion that most women need estrogen, I think, is a strong statement. And in part, if you pay attention to the person who wrote that book, which I have full respect for, she's a fantastic physician. She also happens to monetize her product, and she gets benefits from people who buy her stuff. So I'm not, forgive me, I'm not trying to suggest that she's trying to peddle this to make more money, but there is a financial incentive to bring people into this. Now, that being said, there is definitely a role for several women. There are many women who would benefit from estrogen in some way. The window she's referring to is something we see a lot of in medicine. You hear a lot about the increase in cardiovascular risk with use of estrogen therapy and the increased risk of dementia with estrogen therapy and these sorts of things. And what it seems to be related to is if we can get estrogen on board before we have started to develop vascular plaques, then we can actually, there's an effect in the estrogen in preventing the development of those vascular plaques. Now, another great way to do that is through diet and exercise. But if we can get estrogen on board before we've developed vascular plaques, then there seems to be some cardiovascular benefit and protective mechanism of the estrogen. If, however, you have already developed vascular plaques, so you already have that stuff in your blood vessels, then when we add on the estrogen, we increase your risk for things like strokes, heart attacks, cardiovascular disease, dementia, vascular dementia, because it's related to that. So what she's getting at is there is a window. It seems to be roughly related to 10 years within the onset of menopause. There's arguably some benefits to doing it during the perimenopausal period. A lot of physicians are very, very apprehensive with that for a lot of different reasons, and that's worth a discussion with your physician. But that window she's talking about is exactly that lag window. So within 10 years of onset of menopause, depending on the risk factors and what kind of family history you have. So.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just curious, what role does hormones or lack thereof have to do with your gut health, digestion, constipation, all those type of things? I feel like it's not something that's I hear a lot about, talk about. I started tracking how much fiber I was eating. I wasn't eating enough, so I increased that. Still, not.
Hormones themselves, hormone replacement therapy is not, there's no strong evidence that suggests that there's an improvement in gut health. Now, there is a lot of esoteric studies and side theories that there is some relationship between hormone therapy and gut health, which if you think about it logically, like scientifically, it somewhat makes sense. But there is no evidence at this point that hormone therapy improves gut health. There's a lot of different ways to improve gut health, and that is very important for every person for a lot of different reasons. But you wouldn't obtain that specifically through hormone replacement therapy.
So by not having estrogen on board, are people more likely just in postmenopausal having issues with constipation and that type of thing? Or is that something we can get that go to your general surgeon?
So constipation, so poor bowel habits, constipation, diarrhea, difficulties with bowel movements, difficulties with urinating, urinary frequency. Some of this can be related to perimenopausal changes, mostly based on the timing of what's happening at that time in your life. There are obviously, women tend to, give birth to babies, and that can cause some pretty major changes in the body, and just age itself causes changes in the tissues themselves that affects their efficiency. So if you're having something like a problem with chronic diarrhea or constipation, that is absolutely something that should be worked up by a primary care physician, because there's a lot of different reasons that can happen. Not the least of which, there are some gynecological explanations for why that stuff happens. So it's not a stupid idea to bring up to your gynecologist as like, hey, can you take a look down there and tell me if you see any changes that are odd?
Anyone else? I feel like we've covered a lot of topics. Is there anything that anybody wishes that they had said or wishes that they heard about that has not been brought up? And we're all friends now. We've talked about climaxing and vaginas now at this point. So, yes.
Just back to, so estrogen and bone health, kind of back to that same question. Is there a point where taking hormone replacement therapy isn't going to actually improve bone health, like that window, or is that, what is this?
The effects of hormones on bone health specifically, I am unaware of a cutoff for the utility of that. You're going to run more into a problem with the cardiovascular concerns with when to start estrogen.
Which was my idea. So it sounds like on the cardiovascular end that it's doing two things. It's preventing plaque formation, but also increasing the coagulability of the blood. Like how
So estrogen, well, the coagulability is a totally just separate issue. Estrogen does increase your chances for thromboembolic events, so things like blood clots in the blood. It is cardioprotective if you have not already developed plaques. It causes harm, though, if they're already there, because it destabilizes them. So that's why there's that dichotomy of an effect there.
I have a question. Yeah. Estrogen and testosterone, and they don't test you. How come they don't test you when you go in to find out where your levels are at? Is it sort of like a one-size-fits-all, or is that something that's needed? And do you need a blend of both?
You just hit a fun subject. I like to talk about this with an example. So people are always, we hear a lot nowadays about ladies wanting a hormone panel, and there are hormones that it is useful to look at. So thyroid levels, absolutely. In certain cases, cortisol levels can be an interesting thing to look at. Very specific cases, things like estrogen levels, testosterone levels, FSH, LH, all can be useful if, again, in this specific case, and we know the timing of where they're at in their cycle. All of that changes our interpretation of the hormones. However, blanket testing, just going out and buying a panel and seeing where your testosterone levels are, as is pitched to us to do so commonly, is not as helpful. Because all of us, if you look at what is normal for a woman as far as testosterone levels or estrogen levels even, or anything like that, the window is broad, and the hormone levels are influenced so much on a day-to-day basis by our sleep habits, by what we've done during that day, by our own cortisol levels, by everything. It's not really helpful to have a random snapshot in most cases. Testosterone levels in particular. So ladies are like, well, when I took testosterone, my sex drive went up. You're right, like a lot of testosterone will do that. But it's not true. The research has shown that there's not necessarily a correlation between a level and your sex drive. If that were the case, then ladies with PCOS would be massively inclined to be sexually active. But I can tell you that is definitely not the case. So it's less about the level, more about your symptoms.
So do you have to take a blend of both, or can you just take estrogen, or do you have to take estrogen and progesterone?
Progesterone.
Yeah.
So that's an excellent question. The reason we typically do them together, so estrogen with progesterone, is because progesterone is important for protecting the uterus. So unchecked estrogen on a woman with a uterus has the risk of causing changes in the uterus that can lead to precancerous or cancerous changes. Obviously, something we definitely don't want. Progesterone counterbalances that effect and protects the uterus from those changes. In a woman who has had their uterus removed, we tend to avoid progesterones unless there's a history of endometriosis, because again, we need to check that. You try to avoid progesterone in those cases, because if we can reduce the amount of hormone that we're having to expose you to, probably better. That's an important point, though. I see a lot of women get put on estrogen therapy who've had a hysterectomy, who were told, you don't have to be on progesterone, and then they come to me in excruciating pain or with something else going on, and it turns out they had a history of endometriosis, which is why their hysterectomy was done, and that is not a good case for someone to just be on estrogen. That person definitely needs progesterone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was great.
I have a quick follow-up question about that. Do you think there's some utility in like a estrogen, like a continuous glucose monitor, like a estrogen, monitor? I don't know.
Oh no.
Future of medicine. I don't know.
The sensitivity of those tests is not yet to a level where that would be effective.
Yeah. Interesting.
But glucose monitors are fun, if nothing else, and insightful for your own personal insulin sensitivity. So,
yeah, great.
Anyone have any other last minute thoughts on this? And remember, we're going to be here next week at the same time doing our Menopause Cafe. Sounds super exciting, doesn't it? Oh. Last minute thoughts from each of you? One thing you want us to take away?
You're not broken, and please go home and have an orgasm, because it's good for the vascularity to your vagina. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. I second that. No, just kidding. And if anyone wants, I have this menopause preparedness toolkit for someone who likes lots of information. It's really great. It's a women's empowerment guide from the Society for Women's Research. Has a ton of good stuff. And I have a sign-up sheet if you want. You can put your email there. I will email it to you, and then I'll shred your email. I'm not going to put you on any list. But just simply for this, and if you want anything else, let me know. But yeah.
My final thoughts, focus on what you can control, because it feels like we don't have any control, but you do. You have control over your daily habits, and that really is the foundation of moving through this phase peacefully and smoothly.
You can find Jennifer and Katherine at the NVRH website as well, and at Ace Nutrition for Kelly. And I'm sure the panelists will be around here a little bit, so if you have any questions for them that you didn't feel comfortable asking in front of everybody, then I'm sure they'll be happy to do that with you too. I want to thank all our panelists here and the Athenaeum for hosting this, and we'd love your feedback as well. Hopefully we'll see y'all next week. Thank you.